Oh, I am vibrating with excitement to have Ema Dantas with us today. And you've heard the introduction to her. This is what I would say very easily a powerhouse woman. And Emma and I've just had the opportunity to get to know each other because you have a summit coming up called One Woman Fearless Summit, and it's on March 29th. And I have the great honor of speaking at this event and sharing in this opportunity with you. So before we get to the summit, though, let's start with summits. So summit seems to be a theme in Emma's life. One of the things that is an incredible part of your journey is that you have summited Everest and some stuff happened, and you've also summited the seven biggest summits in the world. So walk us through that entire adventure. And what I think we always want to hear also is what'd you learn from those adventures? So take us on a journey with you, Emma.
Well, and first of all, thank you so much for having me here, Laurie. I know that we're just getting to know each other, but I'm in awe and I'm looking so forward to your speech on March 29 at Fearless Summit in Mississauga because, we women are fearless, period, regardless of where we are. And um, seven summits. I didn't even know what the seven summits were at, to be honest, when I started climbing. And Originally, it wasn't to complete the seven summits or any world record or achieve anything. I started climbing to as an event for my charity foundation's Peak for Change. And our goal is to end the stigma on mental health. And I've realized that um, the summit, the seven summits, and raising money was as hard or harder, and than as is ending the stigma for mental health. Because regardless of how many times that we say that, no, we understand, everybody understands, no, we don't. In deep down inside, there's something about mental health that scares us all still, and that is so. Anyways, that's the goal of our foundation is to say that it's okay. Mental health is health. It's an illness like any other illness, and it needs to be taken care of like any other illness. So that was that's how the idea of the seven summits started, because we were trying to figure out what would be something that would attract and bring a lot of attention. And come on, I'm Portuguese. I'm older. I'm a grandmother. I'm less than 5 feet tall, and I'm afraid of heights. So that would be pretty cool,
Perfect
right?
combination to climb Mount Everest for sure.
Exactly. But then, as each mountain happened, I learned that, wow, it's so peaceful out there. And that is where I truly found God and Jesus. We had many conversations that mostly were me whining, I like to say. And until I'm sure he would go like, oh my God, just stop. I got you, don't worry. Um, but one of the things that I learned climbing the mountains, that it's not just silence and the power of believing and the power of prayer, um, and that if you actually put one foot in front of the other and just take all the noise of our world out, we can accomplish anything, because we have God, and yeah, just believe in yourself and you'll accomplish anything with his help.
Mm. It's interesting the alignment to the mental health piece for me because, my son who actually, produces the podcast, he went through school for, film and communication, and the mountains call him so deeply, and when he so 2 summers, him and his girlfriend have moved out west to work and be able to be surrounded by the mountains and climb the mountains. Now, he hasn't done Everest yet, but he was so excited you and I were having this conversation today, because I know what I see in him when he is climbing the mountains and he is there in that energy and space. His mental wellness is so different. And so and different people find it in different places, obviously, and we talk about that all the time. But what for you, like, what was the draw to there was a connection between these 2 things?
Um, like I said, like, in the beginning, it was I to me, being outdoors and running, and I have found running before climbing, I have found running, and, I started running, because of, my life, actually. Yesterday, I put it on my Instagram, actually, because my pastor had said that, we needed to save of how like do a testimony, and my life changed when my whole life as I knew it, God, I came home one day from work, and that's in my book, by the way. And it's called Mental Mountains, my book, just
Yeah.
because it is mental.
Beautiful title.
um,
I love that. So much alignment.
and I came home, and my life as I knew it, God, I was like I had gotten a sucker punch in my stomach, and so I started running, actually, and I started running to raise funds for ALS because I had an employee at the time that had been diagnosed with ALS, and just the being outdoors and the need, and I knew how when I was stressed, if I went for a run, I can think, I can be clear. It was just me and the road, and it just became my thing that I really needed, to the point that if I couldn't go for a run, some mornings I was like,
Mhm.
I need to go for a run. With the mountains, I think it was, being, um because of the way my life was there, I wasn't judged, I wasn't mountaineering is, part like, mainly it's men, but nobody judges you, it doesn't matter if you're 5 foot, even though they might look at you and go, "Are you sure you can go up that rope?" I got those looks. For Everest, like, for when my team first looked at me like, "What is she doing here?" But at the end of the day, you're out the doors, and, when I reflect on it now, I think it was just where I was supposed to be and what how I needed to heal. Um, it wasn't, therapy, because therapy, yes, it did help, but it was there that I know that it was there that God needed for me to learn that my life is in His hands and He can save me and keep me safe. I don't know if that makes sense. That I know more than, like, I'm 101% sure. It's just the way it is.
So, listening to you, it's so profound to me that you follow that inner voice, that voice of God, those messages that are coming to you. And as you follow those things, even as you're navigating your own obstacles and your own mental mountains, you are still following them. You're starting opportunities to raise money that support people. You started a foundation. You use your philanthropic energy to be able to change the stories. You've been a recipient of Canada's Top 100 Female Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I did.
Just opened a gym that you're gonna tell us about, and so even though you're navigating those things, I think this is such an important message for all of us that we are going to have the obstacles
Mhm,
and we're going to have the opportunity to have the nudges. So
mhm.
maybe just a little bit about how do you follow the nudges even when you're having, some of those obstacles that are proposing themselves to you?
I think just like everybody else, sometimes you cry, sometimes you
Mhm.
go you doubt, and you doubt, and you doubt yourself a lot. I do, throughout when I had Language Marketplace, which was the business that, I sold in 2022. I had that company for 23 years, and, even there, I doubted myself many times, but, I did grow it and just I think I just grew it in just being me, and I'm not for everybody. Um, you just you have to trust, and that was a big thing, especially how my life had 20 years of my life. Trust was not a very big thing. So when I found God, that it's hard to trust. And what God is asking more than not above any human relation that we need to trust on, and it's easy to break that trust. But God even goes beyond that. We need to trust Him blindly. But the rewards that and the signs that if you actually just listen, and I talk a lot, so sometimes listening is hard for me. But sometimes you just have, I do have I get the experience that sometimes that they're so bluntly the signs that God is talking to me, and I go, "Okay, got it. I got it."
I always
Um,
say he whispers, and then if you're not paying attention, he's gonna send something really loud because,
yes,
like he
exactly.
wants you to follow. And so it's tiny little nudges first, and then it's
Exactly.
bigger, maybe not so gentle and wonderful things that you're asked to step into.
But things are hard, like
Yeah.
you were stating, like and if I think that sometimes we get used to that if we follow God, everything is going to be all right, or if we just start a
Mm.
business, everything is just gonna be marvelous. And I'm going through that right now because like it took a long time to do the construction for the new gym. I only opened at the end of September. And I freak out because, the lack of customers. It's a new business. I'm doing high altitude for above all things. People go, "Hi, what?" And I forget, and I have to that when I started my company, yeah, I sold it with success, but I spent over 22 years working on it. That the first year that I had the company, I was working a full-time job and working on my company for a whole year by
Mhm.
myself to making it grow. I keep forgetting that little piece. Um,
Well, it's
so
because
it's
we have
just
so much around us that looks like an overnight success, but it was a
right,
30-year overnight success or a 20-year or a 10-year overnight success, right? So it
right.
yeah, even though you've done it once, because you've had so much success at the end of it, it is harder to look back and go, "Hang on, yes, there is a starting point," and you've climbed mountains. The analogy is so true, right? One step in front of the other, and you don't get to the peak at first, you actually have to climb to the peak.
Actually, somebody, the mountaineers always say, but it's not really true, that summit that we always say, "Oh, no, reaching the summit is not the goal, it's just climbing the mountain." And even climbing the mountain is the journey,
Mhm.
but reaching that summit does feel good.
I bet. Well,
Uh,
especially because use that as an example because your first go at Everest, you didn't get to the
no,
summit. So, did that feel different second time around when you were able
it
to
did.
yeah.
And I'm glad that I'm actually with the first was in 2021. I got medvaced out. I was extremely sick. I couldn't even make it to Camp One. I had been there already 6 weeks, and I was extremely sick. And my turning point was that I knew that there was something, there was a, like, I'll tell you, we were going to Camp One, and I felt this darkness constantly around me, and then now I've been there again in 2022, and that darkness was not there, but it was just like a really darkness around, and I just couldn't find. I felt cold. And anyways, when I came back from halfway down the ice fall and came back to base camp, because I just didn't have the strength because I had been sick, grievously as soon as we got to started the trek, and and when I knew in me that I needed to come, and everybody was saying, the guides were saying, "Oh, just rest." We went to the medical tent, got more medication. "Oh, rest more. You can still catch up with the team. Go up." That when I said, like, to my family and to the board that I couldn't climb Everest, that I was going to come home, I got one message from the board, one of the board members of my foundation, and they just said, "Well, you tried. Who did you let down? Like, trying is what's important. If you're not gonna do that and think that that's wrong, you're being hypocritical for the message that we're trying to say with mental health, that we try, and one day it's one day at a time." When I did decide, the moment that I said, "I'm coming home," and I turned my sat phone off, and against the guides, I said, "No, I need a helicopter." I just went out. And it was just like this weight lifted off me, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we're good. This is where it needed to be." Um, but in 2022, I had no, I didn't, I wasn't going to. I left Everest in 2021 with wanted to ever go back. People go, "Oh, you have next time," and I'm like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh," and inside me, I would say, "Never. Are you guys crazy? Not going, not." But then my youngest daughter said, "Mom, you should really go. You're never gonna know. You're always gonna wonder." Um, and I did, and this time we did it in 16 days because I trained at high altitude, and yeah, and it was awesome, and God was certainly with me. I saw a lot of dead bodies. I panicked. I cried for 40 minutes. I stood in the line, begging God not to let me die, because our oxygen was going lower, and the everybody was just so slow. The lineups were so big, and I knew where we needed to get to our next bottle of oxygen. And I cried, and I just asked God to bring me safely because I wanted to come back and see my kids and my grandkids. And He did. I'm here, and He's awesome.
That's so amazing, so powerful. Even just in the moment where you aren't able to finish the first time, and the message that that's not what it's about, and yet choosing to go back the second time and still having that opportunity to share that story and show people that there's always reasons, there's always a path, and that you're protected in the path as well in the ways you're meant to, right? If you tried the first time, who knows with being that sick? I can't see that there would have been like a good outcome. Even if you'd gotten to the top, you probably wouldn't have been able to really be in it or experience it, right? So
Right.
I love that. There's so many messages in that. So many messages.
My she's one of my best friends, and she's also my insurance agent. And well, for the clients, and when I wrote on my Facebook page that why I didn't climb, she just said to me, "Have you ever thought that this time your mountain to climb was yourself?" And it was, when I reflected on it, because that was my pivotal point. It was actually the decision of me medevacing or staying, was the pivotal, in my marriage at the time. And when I clicked off the sad phone, that was the pivotal moment that, yeah, I just need to take care of myself from now on. And I think that I had just the way my life had been the past 10 years, it was always that message that maybe God is talking to you. You just don't listen because we have this necessity of being in control. Um, I'm an only child, so I grew alone. My parents were immigrants, didn't have time to babysit me, and so that independence and that need to be in control my day, control what happens has been something very prevalent in all my life. With God, I'm trying to just relinquish that control because the control isn't mine, and I'm slowly seeing that. And it's so powerful and it feels so good just not having that need to always be in control.
It's massive.
Yeah.
I said to someone recently, I was reflecting on that point myself and how I've always talked to God when I'm grateful. When I have something to celebrate, I've never been challenged with that, and I realized I never talk to him when I need help.
I think oh Lord. It's like this. Sometimes I forget and I need to remind myself that when I'm grateful that I'm so grateful. But
Mhm.
I'm always like, yeah, and we have these
That's
conversations.
so great. Isn't that awesome? Just to hear us riff on that, I think is,
Yeah.
and instead being and just trusting, trust just being in the flow of trust in all of it,
Yeah.
so what a great message. Tell us about your new gym in Oakville.
Um, the new gym is a high altitude training gym. So in a nutshell, it makes you more efficient. It's great
Mm.
for endurance. It's just like living in Colorado, but in Oakville. And you're training in
Ooh.
a gym in high altitude, above sea level.
So the air
Um,
quality is high altitude, like not air quality, that's probably not the right word, but
the
in
density and
the
the
density, thank
yeah,
you, is
yeah,
set so that you're practicing climbing mountains while you're in there. And
exactly.
also obviously would have a different impact on your body and your
It does,
yeah.
and it's actually, and if you actually think about it, if we like, the more I've learned about it with, creating the gym, because in Europe, it's high altitude training has been prevalent for past 10 years. Everybody does it. Everybody looks at you, go, "What? You didn't train at high altitude? Like we're abnormal?" I did train at high altitude, in 2022. The machine was sent to me home, and I had to sleep at high altitude. 'Cause I went with a European company,
Mhm.
so I didn't know, like, I started going, "Ah, this does work." That is what the gym is, but the health benefits, from, multiplying and, our red blood cell production, from,
Mhm.
helping with diabetes because it controls our insulin, our mental health because it just gives us the happy hormones. And there's so many studies on the benefits, of being at high altitude, and that is why actually Colorado, like, is one of the healthiest states in the United States. Well, it makes sense, and this is why, Laura, you were saying that your son moved, like, I'm assuming to around Vancouver, BC. They have a high altitude. Everybody's so happy there
Yeah.
because they're above sea level.
Yes, and I think that's so it's been interesting watching him navigate because he was in university, so he would go back and forth. So they lived in Panorama the one year, like, actually
Yeah.
up in Pano, so they were
Yeah.
not down even in the village, they lived up in the resort and worked there, and then Jasper another year,
Yeah.
and then, like, just watching him come back to Ontario and not quite understanding the reasons like what you just described, which I think is so important to understand. Like, it's not just about the fact that you enjoy it more there. There's actually something in the air quality, and there's something in nature vibration in general.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is, and that is why mountaineers, we always say that, but this is just with everyone, I think the climbs that, um, when you when you're in or just go hiking and go outdoors when you're back in the city and don't have that, you don't feel as happy. One of my best friends, he's a paramedic, and, we've climbed a couple of mountains together, and he's part of my board, and I he's the first one to say that, that they need the mountains, especially because of, being a paramedic is really hard mentally as well for your mental health, and it's like you there's like a time limit that after 6 or 7 months, you feel like you're going crazy if you can't go and just be. But then, if you actually think about it, 'cause, I'm starting to go through my journey with the Bible, where did God call Moses to go?
To the
To the
mountaintop.
mountain. Where did Jesus go? Where did
To the
Jesus
top.
be alone and think and just relax?
true.
To the mountaintop.
Go high. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, see, there's there's just so much evidence that mountains are so good for you.
That's amazing. And love how you
And
continue to follow
yeah.
how you bring that to life. Okay, let's talk about I'm going to give all of Emma's details of where to find her because she runs multiple fascinating businesses. She's an author, a speaker, so if you have anything coming up, we're going to I believe this is the beginning of Emma and I's journey together too, where we're going to weave into different ways that we can co-create with some things in the future. But one of the things that you have coming up is the One Woman Fearless Summit. And so please share, this one woman, for those
Mhm.
people that don't know the organization, is really just a fabulous story in itself.
Yes.
And so, we'll post again the link to One Woman and you can go explore that. But what enticed you to choose to run your own summit? And again, we've got the coming up March 29th. So we'd love to invite you to come and experience this. There's going to be multiple speakers who are sharing their own TED Talk type stories that align with everything we're talking about today, I would say. So tell us about choosing to do this and what you're hoping to achieve and what you wanna share with people.
Thank you. And yes, and I feel the same way, Lori. I think that this is just the beginning of our working together and doing some pretty amazing things. I think God has a plan because the reason I decided and offer and have the privilege of hosting it on March the 29th was actually because of Charlotte. And Charlotte, she's the founder of One Woman, and it's a great organization. And I had found her and One Woman in 2017 when I started my foundation. I started climbing. And the thing that attracted me to her, because you know how on One Woman is the woman on top of the mountain, on the rock edge. And it's just like fearless, and that stayed with me. And I got in contact with Charla. I spoke at two of her events, one in Toronto, one in Ottawa then, and I continued climbing. And then, I got busy, she got busy. I was like, but I was always following what One Woman was doing and the great things that they do around the world to to help women and sponsor women and just give hope and just I don't know, just give them a different life with like what One Woman does and drive home the message that one woman can change the world. I make a difference, and the difference is actually one person at a time. That's how we change the world around us. This time, I had actually been, I don't know, I had been talking to Jesus. So let's say, I had the gym and like getting, stressed, but the gym really, I don't have to be there. I have trainers of, you know, and I got an email from Charlotte saying, "Oh, wouldn't you like," and I go to myself, "I haven't talked to Charlotte in so long." So I signed up for one of her for the webinar, and while she was talking, I was already messaging, "I'm gonna host one. Can I host one?" And
Amazing.
immediately, Charlotte listened and she saw my name. She's like, "Hey, did you finish climbing?" And it's just amazing that with the thousands and thousands of women and all of the events that Charlotte has going, she remembers and she connects with you and she's there. The other amazing thing was that I actually did not know that Charlotte um, was Christian or believed, Jesus was in her life. And it
Mm.
was one of the little sentences that I'm like, then I messaged her back and she goes, "Yeah, we all have our ha-ha moment." Jesus makes sure of that. Yeah, and then it's a great privilege that to have her guide us and she has such a big we have such a big lineup of great speakers like yourself. And I think it's going to be a great event to maybe drive the message in home that we all inspire each other. And instead of that, just because we're all business or we're speakers, we're moms, we're grandmother, we're wives, we're entrepreneurs, that we don't have to be individual. We work together. If we work together, that it's better and we can all grow and learn from each other because every single day we learn from each other. Just give us a chance 'cause everybody has something to teach and we all have something to learn. So I'm so excited.
There's so much power in the amplification of women and the co-creation together. And I come from a background of corporate, from sort of male-dominated industries. Many of my clients are still, male-led organizations, and I've just had this nudge the last few years to walk into, more connections like this with you, Emma, and just following that nudge, just following it and trusting that it's gonna put me in the places where I get to have conversations like this and amplify those conversations. And so, I've really had this massive aha this year in 2025 that it's time for us to support each other and ripple out the power of I was at an event last week and a woman said, "We need to put more wealth." And I think when I look at wealth, that's not just financially, it's conversations like this are wealth, to put more wealth in the hands of women because we love to nurture and ripple it out.
That's right.
And
It's
I
very
just
true.
feel like that's what this event is, and that's what one woman has created. And, funny, you're gonna so love this. Quick little story is, I'm actually off to a retreat that I'm facilitating in Bali. We
Oh,
we leave your event, we're staying overnight at a girlfriend's house in Mississauga, and we jump on a plane the next morning
to
to
Bali.
go to Bali. And
Yeah,
so isn't one woman actually there's an actual event
in
on
Bali.
April 1st in Ubud, and our retreat that I'm facilitating doesn't start till the 5th, and so one of your other speakers, Kate Thompson,
Yeah,
she sent it to me. She's also coming to the retreat, and she said, "What if? What if we also spoke in Bali?" And I said, "Well, maybe we speak, but maybe we just go," because there again is the ripple effect of
yeah,
being able to support on the other side of the world and then be able to just share those voices out. So,
yeah.
I think that that message of just what we can amplify for each other is it's vital. It's like climbing a mountain. It's all of those things that we do together. So,
I
I'm
think
very
so.
grateful for the opportunity. So, thank you.
I'm grateful as like for all of you and but most of all for Charlotte. Like um the she's going through so much herself,
He
but
is.
but just having she cares so much and she does this out so that it's to help women and it's not just women here in Sudbury in Ontario or in Canada. It's worldwide.
It's worldwide. It's incredible how many events happen
It
worldwide.
is.
Like this
It is.
Bali thing, and then
Yeah.
she actually connected me with an organization that supports women there. So she
Mhm.
said, "Even if you can't go to the one woman event, here's a possibility of you offering your hands and hearts while you're there." How beautiful, right?
It
So,
is.
yeah, what she has created, I think too, is such an example. What you've created with your foundation as well is just that reminder that it takes one person who ripples it to the next, who ripples it to the next. It's wild.
Especially for me, especially with mental health, I
Mhm,
just think that especially in this is in the days and times that we're living,
mhm,
it is so important that we all tune in and just actually sometimes I'd say actually wake up because with it's actually the most important part of your health is your mental health because when that's bad, like nothing else will work. You can be as fit as you want and as everything else as you want. If you don't have that part, it's not going to work. As and I think the connection and I go back to how God works and how he has a path for us. It doesn't matter how many times we're stubborn children and we fall and we cry and he lets us like, okay, fine, just go pout. You'll come out of it. That part but no matter how many times we like, he still has the path for us and he'll still grab our hand and he'll still love us. But with me finding one woman when I had founded Peaks for Change was basically at the same time that I found one woman.
mhm,
And the foundation of Peaks for Change is helping one person at a time because it was founded because of my mom's passing and my mom struggled with mental health uh, for over 25 years. And to me, the way she died, I just thought that no one deserves to die that way. So if you just help one person, one woman, that would be a success. Because if we just each help one,
mhm,
imagine the ripple effect, like you were just saying, Laurie, the
mhm,
ripple effect that all our abundance, all our hard work can do around us.
mhm. Beautifully said, Emma. Thank you. And thank you for being that person and the impact that you're having. It's
Thank you. Well, and
incredible.
thank you for you because we can have it with what like impact is
Mhm,
not just alone. And when I came out of Everest and I did become like uh, and I read like God also wants us to say what we achieve, but in His name.
right.
But I'm a person that like I don't. When I came with back from Everest, I did become the first Portuguese person to ever the seven summits. I'm one of only 100, maybe 124 Canadians to have done it. There's a lot of good things, and it was a great thing. That what people would say, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I don't know." But I've always was like that, even with my business with the when I had Language Marketplace, even though we were one of the largest companies, of translation companies in Canada. And, people say, "Oh, what do you do?" "I'm a translator."
Right.
It's just like to me, that was not the importance is not the titles. What I'm trying to say, the importance are not titles or not it's what you do with what you have and to with other people,
Mm,
but you can't do it alone.
right.
You can't run a company alone. You can't live alone because God didn't make us to be alone.
Mhm,
God made us to be a community and work in community. And that is why one woman, I think, has been so successful. There's hundreds of thousands of women in this one woman.
mhm. Yeah, it's fascinating the title, right? Because one woman is
Yeah.
actually this and community is the medicine. Community is the medicine. It always has been and it always will be.
That's
And,
right.
some of where we've gone societally is very sort of independent and driven and, creating success. It's interesting you say that too, is and I do think in many ways that's, part of the female experience is we wanna be humble. We wanna give grace to God, as you said, but also sharing the stories like you are today do help people then develop the courage and the belief in themselves.
Right.
And so I'm really grateful that you have shared your voice, that
Thank you.
that you are able to speak out on how incredible that is, because it is important to hear about your success from the place that you share it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. And one more reason I'm so excited about March 29th or any other one woman, there's so many.
Yeah, there is so many.
Yeah, we have one of the other speakers. She's actually also hosting her own event in Ottawa.
Oh,
And
amazing.
she's coming to join us
Amazing.
here in Mississauga. So it's good. I know it's going to be an amazing event.
I love its Fearless Summit. So I think it just speaks to what energy we wanna step into all together. So March 29th, we will put the details of how to buy tickets in the show notes. And Emma, this has just been such a beautiful conversation. I thank you so much.
Likewise.
I
I thank you for inviting me.
I
I'm
love that
so
we both
honored.
stepped into trust and faith, and here we are.
I agree. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody for listening to me rambling on.
You were not rambling, you were extremely insightful, so thank you so much, and, we'll get you all the ways to find Emma. Emma, I can't wait to see you live soon, and for us to continue conversations however we're led to continue them, so we will see.
Likewise. Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Blessings.
you.
Bye.
Bye.